brothers and sisters, I'm extremely happy opportunity in meeting with young, bright the human brothers sisters. I think in most cases you are truly generation of 21st century. So there is a real possibility to create better world. I belong 20th century, or that century, including myself. So I think difficult century. So now this century, out of our past experience, our usual sort of way of thinking, the importance of oneself, or one's own community, one's own nation, and a strong concept of strong we, I, we, disregard others' right or their feeling. So that's, I feel, the ultimate source of problem. I think very concept of war based on that strong concept of we and they. So now today, even the reality itself, now that kind of concept now outdated, because global issue, global economy, national boundary is not important. The different religious faith also is not important. And I said the global economy also is beyond, I said the faith, correct? National a boundary. So that's new reality. I think often our problem, usually I could describe man-made problem. Usually I think we forget the reality. Sometimes you say, so we act according to the appearances, and also sometimes that sort of the factor, the reality sometimes seems to say our own mind sort of imposes some kind of reality, and that actually not the reality. One's own mental projection, one's own mental creation, then act according to that reality, then often become disaster. I often say telling people the Iraq crisis, Iraq and the Afghanistan crisis. During Mr. Bush, president, I know him right from the beginning, right from our first meeting. We immediately become very close friends. Sometimes with some leaders, some politicians, when we first meet, a little bit too much formal. And then you see difficult to reach deeper level. I do not want to mention name, but some leaders, first meeting, quite distance. Second meeting, a little closer. Third meeting, closer. So later I also told that person, oh, our first meeting, quite distance. So unlike that, Mr. Bush instantly become very close. I think one of perhaps I think small sort of was the example. They visit, then there's some cookies, you see, come. Then I just say, which one is more sort of better or more delicious? And President say, oh, this is very good. Very good, isn't it? Very good. Then we immediately become very, very close friend. So then you see, after Iraq crisis, Iraq war started or happened. Another occasion, my meeting with President. So then I told directly, so I love you, I respect you, but some of your policy is concerned, I have some reservation. He smiled. So now this is example. I know President Bush's motivation, good, bring democracy, and the obstacle of the democracy eliminate. Good sort of goal. And really thinking about the freedom of Iraqi people. So his motivation also is good. But then, method, wrong method, use force. So this clearly sort of shows, no matter how sort of sincere motivation and very sort of, because of the just goal, but method, wrong method. Wrong method means unrealistic, without knowing the proper sort of reality. So that's one example. In our daily life also, you see, what you want something, then approach is that must be realistic way, like that. So therefore, the past century, I think many problems, mainly due to just self-centered sort of attitude. So reality, we are a social animal. One's own interests, one's own nation's sort of interest related with rest of the nation, rest of the humanity. So therefore, I think during 20th century, according to some historian, 200 millions of people killed. Such immense violence and suffering, and also including use two nuclear bombs, one Nagasaki, one Hiroshima. I personally visited this area. And my first visit there, actually I met some sort of old women who actually, you see, because of radiation sort of suffering. Then I still remember very clearly how much the heat, one bunch of needle melted, and one old watch, the 10 a.m. that watch half burnt. So these are really terrible. But men use these things out of strong anger, hatred. Then September 11th, few thousand people killed. Mostly, of course, I think the entire population, the people who killed there, innocent. All these ultimately related here. So therefore, now 20th century becomes century of violence. That immense violence really brought new shape, new world, better world, then we can say, oh, immense violence, very sad, but brought some good things. But that's not the case. So now here, the 21st century now, just the beginning of 21st century, there is possibility, you see, to develop more peaceful world. Peaceful means no longer any problem, not that. Problem remain there. Perhaps problem may increase. Number one, population increasing. I think within this century, some experts say 10 billions may reach, population may reach 10 billion. Then nature disaster also, I think, will increase. Because of global warming and some other sort of reasons, so this century will not be free from problems. So now the peaceful century means whatever you see, we face some problem, we must try to solve that problem. Peaceful means that's non-violence. Now, in order to carry non-violence, you should have confidence. Confidence comes from truth. If you lie other, then difficult to face that. If you stand firmly, truth, justice, honest, the power of truth is very, very sort of powerful. Then we can face the problem, and you have the full courage, meet the other person and talk. So the willpower, carry dialogue, meeting with the other party, they very much related with emotions. You yourself a little bit sort of anxious, a little bit sort of as a sort of result of practice of hypocrisy, saying some nice thing, keep here something different thing. Then your position has become very, very weak. Although very powerful nation, but if that's the case, then difficult. Then better to use weapon. So weapon, as I mentioned earlier, eventually brought more disaster. No use. So only non-violent way try to solve the problem. So for that, your willpower is very important. That depends on self-confidence. There also is a blind self-confidence also there. This self-confidence based on truth, based on justice, is very, very essential. So now in order to have the peaceful century, these things are very, very important. Now I think my generation may be now outdated. I belong to the 20th century, so 20th century already gone. So now my generation now looking coffin. If you believe hell and heaven, to think about hell, about heaven. I'm Buddhist, I'm thinking next rebirth. But you, these young people now, you are truly the generation who really can create new shape of this planet, this century. So therefore, indeed, I'm very, very happy and a great honor meeting mainly that kind of generation, and opportunity to share some of my own experience. Thank you. Now some open discussion, right? Discussion. Actually, I prefer, you see, they just open, discuss. Like.
We have questions. We already have questions.
Yes, first is a few questions, written question. But then I prefer, you see, they open, discuss.
Thank you so much, Your Holiness, for coming to speak. We have some students that would like to ask you some questions. Sean?
Good, thank you. Thank you for the moving talk and for coming today. I really appreciate it. I was wondering, with the people of Boston and everyone over the world facing tragedy today, and our thoughts and prayers, when you're witness to violence and injustice in the world, how do you personally maintain your faith in the goodness of humanity?
Firstly, it is very helpful. You see, every event, when we face some sort of tragedy or some difficulties, we must look that more holistically. Then, when you look more holistic way, or try to look from different angle, then often very bad sort of situation, very bad event, tragic event, there could be some positive things, and also is a possibility of good things. Look from different angle. Then, now for example, I lost my own country, a lot of difficulties. But look from another angle, become refugee is new opportunity, meeting with different people. When I was in Tibet, Dalai Lama, too holy. So you see, more ceremonial way, life like that. Eventually I developed real hatred towards that kind of formality. No use. So therefore, me personally, become refugee is most fortunate. Look, lost our own country and a lot of problems, very sad. Look from another angle, yes, that brought new opportunity, at least me personally. And then also, you see, quite number of Tibetan. I think, generally, I feel sometimes we Tibetan, in that, because of the mountainous area, you see, I think, because of some meditation or a simple life, we spend, I think, centuries that way. Now, this tragedy, in a way, I think really wake up Tibetan. So positive sort of side also there. So then you see your sadness or your anxiety also reduce. This is number one. Number two, when we face some problem, then I always remember the 8th century's one Indian sort of Buddhist masters, scholars actually. He expressed, when we face a tragic situation, then think about that sort of situation. Analyze. If there is possibility to overcome that, then no need worry. No need sort of sit sad because of the sadness. Instead of sadness, make effort. Develop more sort of enthusiasm to face that, because there is opportunity, possibility of overcome that through effort. Then, after sort of analyze the situation, no way to overcome, there's no use too much worry. In fact, you have to accept. So that advice, that sort of way of thinking, I feel very, very useful. Then thirdly, I'm Buddhist. I'm Buddhist. So we not only we are not only thinking about weeks and decades, or weeks and years, or decades, or century. We thinking eons. So one day, whole galaxy collapse. No need to too much worry. Circle go like that way. Last year, some people really, you see, serious concern about 2012. It's the ending of the world. Or so some people really, you see, ask me a question, you see, very serious. You see, they a little bit much sort of worry about that. And then I sort of respond, no, don't worry, that will not happen. Now I think I win. Now already 2013. So in case, you see, the world end come, okay. That's reality, that's nature, okay. No longer any problem. Like that, you see, thinking, you see, this wider perspective, really immense help, you see, to reduce too much concern, too much sort of serious sort of feeling. Can keep your enthusiasm, your optimism. Next question.
Great, thank you. Stella?
Thank you, Your Holiness. The Global Scholars Symposium brings together scholars from all over the world to discuss some of the world's greatest challenges, such as climate change, wealth inequality, population growth, food insecurity, and the other challenges that are facing us over the coming century. You talked about many of these in your remarks. What do you think is the greatest challenge facing the world today? And as young scholars, what can we do if we want to go about solving one of these problems? What should we choose? Thank you.
Yes, I think I already mentioned nature disaster, one problem, but that's beyond our control. Then I think one serious thing is population. Even today, 7 billion. Within 7 billion, a lot of problem. Mainly, I feel poverty in many areas. I think poverty really, you see, creates some kind of certain weak mental sort of mental attitude, isn't it? And that sometimes, you see, often translate frustration. Frustration translates where? Or transform anger, then violence. So now, this huge gap. The northern world, generally, you see, you have surplus. No. And same world, southern world, even starvation happen, and malnutrition. These young children, millions of children. When we see pictures, the mother, very thin, almost not much milk, yet you see the dying child. That. Same human being. What is wrong with these people? I think we have some sort of sources to help these people, to reduce this kind of thing. So here, the gap rich and poor. This, I think, one of the very, very serious matter. So we have to, you have to think very seriously how to reduce this gap, rich and poor. Then, again, nature resources. Now, because of the solar energy, because of wind energy, these are, I think, real, because of our hope in future. The use of the fuel these things is very temporary. Anyone who have some sort of knowledge, the using oil from deep sort of underneath. You see, there is sort of possibility eventually these dry up. So, how much effect that area? Some earthquake? Any sort of possibility of more nature disaster due to, you see, these some kind of imbalance. Now, previously, 100,000 years, this is certain sort of, like oil, there are its own weight and its own kasota. I think some geological kasota work, right? So more balanced, interrelated. That once you see that empty. Anyone who have some knowledge? And I would like to know. Obviously, you see, deforestation, obviously, we see a very bad effect about ecology, or rainfall, all these things, you see. That's very clear. Underneath, and then also you see water resources. I think American continent, the farmlands area, the water, underneath water, decade by decade now reducing. So I think these are sort of serious sort of the effect of nature sort of nature balance or nature sort of element. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
The two nuns there, one former nun, one sort of still present nun. Do you have some idea?
I agree with what you're saying. I don't have any knowledge of holiness about this.
Knowledge means Karsati. Then actually, I think Oxford or the Cambridge, many years ago, one sort of meeting, and then 2 professors. You see, we spent, I think, a few moments. Then the two professors, you see, mentioned to me that then the population 6 million, 6 billion. We discussed this, you see, gap, rich and poor. And then 6 million population. The Southerners' living standard because raise up to the standard of Northern world enjoy. Then nature resources. Already some questions. These 2 professors, you see, mentioned that. That I remember very clearly. So now, some sort of, specialist expert, they say, end of this century, 10 billion. Meantime, this gap, we must tackle to reduce this gap. So then, nature resources. I think these are serious sort of matter. Serious matter. Then population. According to those believers, we entire human being is created by God. Then we must pray to God. Now, please, some control. If according to those people who simply believe law of causality, including Buddhist like that, So then, again, our responsibility to think seriously, and birth control by force is not good, but through education, through awareness. I think in Europe, I think population rate of birth reducing in many places. Those sort of society, those family, better education, they sort of also they pay more attention about that. And then third world, this area, they say they not that much sort of concern. So then I usually, you see, half joke, you see, telling people the best non-violent way of birth control is more nuns, more monks. That's the best, isn't it? So these are really, you see, I feel the real sort of the challenge. And unless you see, we make real constant effort, these things are really very serious. This is my view.
Thank you. Tracy?
Hi, thank you for being with us here today. And one of the things that brings us all together is that we are seeking advanced degrees. So that leads me to ask you, in your opinion, what do you think is the value of academia? And how do we as students discern whether to address those issues that you've discussed by working in the academic world, or whether we seek to address those issues in more direct ways?
I think these sort of problem, the mass movement tackle this problem. That depend on awareness or education. So I think academician is work within the academic sort of institution, and then more papers, more sort of also the report out of your research, and then I think share more institution and also including media people. I always telling media people also you see have the opportunity and responsibility to educate people, not just report bad things or negative things. Negative thing must report transparently. It's very important. I always telling media people should have long nose like elephant nose, and smell front and also behind what is really happening, what's the real reality. I always telling them. So it is very, very important report. What is reality? But at the same time, the media people must sort of pay some attention about promotion of human value and the promotion of religious harmony. So, you see, first, you see, material need. That's those are the people, ordinary people, you see, cannot produce. Now, those academician people who specially research this field, and then you see, let them know. I think that's more important, I feel. So, these sort of academic people, I think you can think the wider way to serve, give new ideas, new awareness, these things. Instead, you see, you yourself is working somewhere, only two hands, effect limited. Better to educate more people, 100 people, the 200 hands. Or 1,000 people, 2,000 hands. Million people, to 2 million hands. And much effective. Isn't it? That's my view.
Thank you. Sung Young Jong?
Then the academic itself now, I have some sort of critics, maybe. Yesterday, also I mentioned yesterday, existing modern education system is very much oriented about material values, not sufficient to pay attention about inner values. As I mentioned before, let's say a sense of concern of others' well-being and a less self-centered attitude, not out of teaching or through God's blessing, not that way. Use our intelligence properly. Then no. You see, we need physical health. For physical health, physical comfort, we need material development. But mental health, mental comfort cannot produce by matter. I think even later part of 20th century, there will not be any sort of supermarket which can sell peace of mind. I don't think. If you carry big sort of check and go supermarket shouting, "Oh, I would like to buy peace of mind," then I think the people laughing, "Oh, that person, something wrong here." So peace of mind must produce, must develop oneself, not from outside. So in order to do that, just to pray to God or Buddhist, just to pray to Buddha, please give me peace of mind. Frankly speaking, if God can do that, I think today He must also give us peace of mind, because entire human population, God's own son. Still not very clear. Your real point. Now, I never think myself or some sort of leader, and I must lead people. I never thought that way. I consider myself as a simple Buddhist monk. As a sort of part of my practice, as you mentioned, so long space remain, so long sentient beings suffering remain, I will remain in order to serve them. So that's my favorite sort of prayer. So according to that prayer, my body, speech, mind dedicate well-being to other. So if someone came to ask me, then my duty to share some of my experience. I never I never go around, or I'm leader. I have everything to show you, to teach you all your problems. I never said that. Never advertising. If Buddhist monks rule, very clear. Unless someone asks you the teaching or explanation, you should not teach. So I never visit different places, or I want to preach or something like that. No. So is it can answer your question? Like that? I don't know.
I guess I think what I'm trying to express is, I think we all feel some sense of responsibility, because we've been given these great honors. Some responsibility, and I think with that there is maybe a bit of a pressure as well. And so I guess what your advice would be for us, because we need to, I think, handle this responsibility.
That's right. I think as a human being, we are part of 7 billion human beings. Each of us have the moral responsibility to take sense of concern of well-being of 7 billion human beings. As I mentioned earlier, in today's world, everything interdependent. World happy individual naturally get maximum happiness. World face some difficulties, then every individual cannot escape from that. So therefore, for your own, this is too strong. The white. Last year, let's see, my 2 eye already operated because I didn't cataract. So too strong, bright, not good. But in any way, so therefore, think more about well-being of other. That's the real source of your own satisfaction. Think just oneself, more worry, more anxiety. Think about others' well-being. You get inner strength and get satisfaction. And I think important at the end of our life, when you reflect your whole sort of life, you led your life some sensible. Sensible means some useful to other. Then, with the last breath, you feel, okay, now my life is spent for some useful to other, to other. Then you feel happy, no regret. Whole life, you see, carried with extreme self-centered attitude and making money, Dad. At the end of that day, you already know, now no use any sort of this money, material values. And worst thing, in order to gain some materials or because of the benefit, cheating other people, bully other people, exploit other people, then at that moment you really feel great sort of because of the regret. Like that. So they think others' well-being is the best way to get individual oneself sort of satisfaction, like that. I think this not only just my sort of view. Number of scientists, medical scientists, and brain scientists. Now many of them, you see, carry experiment to people, some training about compassion and mindfulness. They found obvious effect on their mental state and eventually their body health. Like Emory University, Stanford University, and then Wisconsin University. There's some professors, great scientists. You see, they last few years, they already, you see, carry some experiment. Some people, you see, give them some kind of training or some kind of training of mind or more awareness about these different emotions. And about 2-3 weeks training. Each day, 1 hour, half an hour, like that. And after 3 weeks, before that training start, they check blood pressure and amount of stress, these things. Then after 3 weeks training, again check, blood pressure reduce. Stress amount of stress also much reduced. As a result, the person become much happier. And they are sort of, because of the interaction with their sort of fellow student or fellow sort of friends, much healthier as a result, the person become much happier. See, these purely carry these sort of experiment academic level, not talking about next life or not talking about heaven, simply the how to build healthy body, happy person through mental training. So I have a serious sort of the concern or critics the existing education system, mainly oriented about material value. This is not adequate. Now we must sort of think seriously how to introduce a modern education system about ethics, about moral ethics. Now here is one problem. Some friend in the West, in the West, some Christian, some Muslim, they have the view the moral ethics must be based on religious faith. Then and also you see, there is some sort of tendency, the concept, secular means some kind of disrespect about religion. According to Indian understanding about secular means respect all religions and also respect non-believer. One, my friend, a former Deputy Prime Minister of Government of India, Advani, Mr. Advani, once he told me, in India, almost 3,000 years, this tradition, respect non-believer. So, when Indian Constitution, you see, finalized, based on secular, because India, multi-religious community, so society. Therefore, the Constitution based on secular. So, freedom, complete freedom, respect to all religions, and also including non-believer. So, therefore, when I use the word secular, according to that understanding, so then realistically speaking, in secular education field, these moral ethics must be based on secular way. Then moral ethics based on secular is then fit in secular education field. If moral ethics based on religious faith, then some difficulties. And then also, no matter how wonderful one religious sort of tradition, it never be universal. So, universally acceptable sort of moral ethics must be secular way. So we already start with help of these scientists. Last year, we already now start some serious sort of work with help of some universities in Delhi. You see, they're making draft how to introduce in modern education field. So we are working. So perhaps I think this year or within the next 2 years, I think we may ready. Yesterday also I mentioned, and I would like to send this famous education institution, then some discussions, any sort of advice, most welcome. So, otherwise, you see the generation who come through that kind of education, then the moral ethics is something, oh, this is a religious matter, something like that. So then those people who have not much interest about religion, then they also have no interest about these moral ethics. That's the problem. So as I mentioned earlier to the Korean, you see, we have to think long future. I think remaining, this century, perhaps I think if we make some effort through thorough research, and the education field, some sort of education about brain as well as about heart, warm-heartedness, then within this century, I think we can develop new outlook through education. Then real hope's there. Otherwise, the whole society, these leaders also come from the society, the basic sort of way of life, culture, just the matter, just the money, just the material. Yes, next question.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can we please thank His Holiness the Dalai Lama again for...
No. I think... Please, sit down. Sit down.
Okay. So...
I think another 10-15 minutes I want to spend with you. Yes, sometimes I feel, you see, spend time with young people. And that moment, I also feel I'm younger. Sometimes I'm jokingly telling, you see, among old people, then sometimes I feel you go first or I go first. Sorry, one my generation here. So I would like you to know the comment, the expression by two professors and many years ago. You see, within at the 6 billion population, the Southerners' living standard was uplifted up to raise northern sort of people's sort of standard. Then nature resource already questionable. So now, what do you think? Say, we must sort of reduce this gap, rich and poor. That's not only morally sort of important, but practically also, you see, this huge gap also is a source of problem. Clear. One time in Washington, when I give talk, some public talk, I expressed that Washington, the most richest country's capital, but suburb Washington, many poor families. And because of poor, some violence also more in this area. Even those rich family, when passing through this area, sometimes feel a little sort of anxiety. So this sort of poverty or huge gap is also a source of problem. We have to deal with these things. So now, suppose now today already 7 billion. So anyone, this is clear answer now because of the uplift up to similar sort of living standard, basically more or less some standard. Then nature resources, some difficulties, or through scientific sort of research, there is possibility to find like solar system, or solar energy and wind energy like that. Any answer? Any explanation about that? Yeah. Oh, yes.
I agree that it's very important to close that gap between the very rich and the poor. But I think when we think about solutions, we can also think about what we want to do at the end of the very rich. Because in addition to the very poor not rising up very quickly, we also have the rich constantly getting richer. And I think that's an area actually where a lot of religious and spiritual teachings from all different faiths can really think more about what are the actual values that people need in life. Instead of chasing the 7th sports car, think about what do rich people actually need and what is a suitable level at which we can limit the top from escaping, because that will make it a lot easier for the bottom to catch up. Because right now we're trying to catch up a bottom with a top that is also running away ever faster in pursuit of greater material wealth. So I think that's an area in which different faiths have a lot to offer towards the solution.
Religion, I think, like it's a Christian religion, I think, I think over 2,000 years already sort of worked in these things, in this field. Again, in order to make more equal, in order to reduce this gap, and richer side, richer group, but less rich. That I don't know. I think in sort of the socialist countries, for example, China, during the Chairman Mao sort of era, they built community hall. Or community, or what we call community hall or something. I don't know. I don't know. Commune or something. Oh. So work together and share everything together. The principle, very good. I love that. But in reality, not much help. You see, to get richer, those poor people. So then, Deng Xiaoping, as a Marxist, his whole life dedicated for revolution. But then, you see, he saw that kind of method not sort of realistic or not much sort of beneficial. So he start more capitalist way. So I think millions and millions of Chinese, particularly in coastal area, their living standard much improved. So you reduce rich family, rich people, not necessarily is helping to the poorer section of the people. One day I met, several years ago, I met some sort of Indian family come from Bombay, looks very sort of wealthy family. And then they asked me blessing. And I told them, I have nothing, say in the form of the blessing. I have nothing to offer. But you have this sort of ability to receive blessing. That is from your wealth, some portion spent for education and health to those, particularly education, to those the slums people. That is the real source of blessing. So I think, again, education. the people, individual family, let become rich. But some, I think, company in America, some, you see, they donate a lot of money for social well-being or these things. I think that's, again, you see, through education, more compassionate feeling. They make money, then from their profit, you see, share with more people. I think that's better. That's my view. Some kind of control, richer family. I don't know. Then finally everybody remain poor. So I really don't know. These are very complicated. And also I think the system, also you see, some sort of some effect. So actually, when former Eastern European countries, of course, after Berlin Wall disappeared, I think I'm the first sort of foreigner visit or call President Havel, then Czechoslovakia. I expressed at that time, which year? The Eastern European democracy China. Right, 90. Oh. So in any way, I have opportunity to visit that country on the invitation from President Havel. Now he no longer. Wonderful person. I think the sound looks, he very nice to me, so he is a wonderful person. This silly, logical. He really, you see, a very good person. Oh. So at that time, I expressed, now you, newly a free nation or independent nation, truly independent nation now you have the old sort of socialist sort of system. You already, several centuries, several decades, you already practiced that. Now that centralized economy collapsed. So the individual, the market-oriented sort of economy is very, very powerful, dynamic. Now time comes, some kind of synthesize the socialist sort of ideas, concept, keep, meantime, some market-oriented sort of economy, also you see, implement some kind of synthesize, new sort of economic system. If you see possible, then this is the right time to carry more experiment. I expressed at that time. Still I feel that the socialist sort of thinking, well-being of poorer section of people. So therefore, I always describe myself as far as socio-economy theory is concerned, I'm Marxist. Still I'm Marxist. Although I never read full about Das Kapital. I heard something from here, including Chairman Mao Zedong. I got some lesson from him. Really wonderful. The main thing is when I was in China, and particularly touring many different states, I met a number of dedicated party members. Oh, wonderful people, really dedicated, serving to people, and particularly working class people. That means needy people. Wonderful. I prefer socialism rather than capitalism. But at the same time, the reality, just socialism without sort of inner sort of strength, difficult. everybody become poor. That also not good. So in any way, the system or government level, some sort of also the regulation or these things, also you see effect. But I'm not expert in this field. I'm just outsider. Some criticize, that's all. Nothing to show concrete sort of what's the method. It is easy, I think you also, I think, very easy to criticize, but if you really carry the work, I think more difficult, more difficult. Oh, thank you. I really enjoy it. Thank you very much.